The courtroom stilled as the judge brought his gavel up, but before he could speak, a sudden gasp cracked through the air. Everyone turned to Janelle Brown, serene, stable, and clutching a fat folder of documents that no one had anticipated she would carry. And when she pushed those papers across the table, even Kody's face blanched. What were in those pages? Secrets that could undo all the labor he had done to keep it hidden. If you find this story incredible so far, stick with me, because what Janelle's about to tell us is just the tip of the iceberg. And before we get started, ask me in the comments, do you think Janelle did the right thing in revealing these court documents, or should she have kept quiet? This started like any other stressful hearing for the Brown family, but there was something in the atmosphere that was different. The courthouse was abuzz. Reporters covered the stairs, cameras flashing, voices shouting, each vying for a bite of sound. Will Kody testify today? Someone cried out. Are the wives finally going to turn on him? Someone else asked. Nobody knew, but rumors of something big swirled around the building. The same tension hung in the air, the smell of highly polished wood, and the faint trace of coffee and perfume. The heavy chandeliers overhead cast long sinister shadows down the tables. Kody sat rigidly at the defensive side, jaw clenched, his fingers drumming nervously against the highly polished oak. Next to him, Robyn blotted her eyes on a tissue, muttering nervously, "They won't do this, they can't." But in what she said, more plea than assertion, lay her own uncertainty. Christine sat across the aisle, arms folded, her face a combination of anger and determination. Meri sat next to her, leaning in tight, whispering sharply, her eyes fixed on Kody. They seemed like women ready to fight, not forgive. And then there was Janelle. She wasn't glaring, crying, or shaking like the rest of them. She was simply calm, almost eerily so. Her gaze swept across the room, sizing people up, as if she already knew the verdict of that day. On her lap lay a folder, big, sealed, and impossible to overlook. This wasn't a typical hearing. This was the day that Janelle Brown chose to take it all away. The judge arrived, the gavel came down, and business commenced. Jargon of the law hung in the air. Disputes over property, audits of finances, issues of commingled assets that had long been at the heart of the Browns' complicated narrative. But midstream in a dry discussion of tax returns, Janelle stood up. "Your Honor," she stated, her tone firm, "I have further documents that need to be placed into the record." The room was frozen. Kody leapt up, his chair scraping on the floor. "No, absolutely not. She doesn't have the right to dep." But Janelle stopped him cold with a hard glare, one that seemed to muffle, not just him but the whole courtroom. Slowly, deliberately, she passed the folder to the bailiff, who took it to the judge. That folder felt heavier than paper. It was packed with secrets, years of concealed truths, perhaps even betrayals. The judge straightened his glasses, scanning the first few pages. His brows were furrowed within seconds. "Mrs. Brown," he said, voice tinged with interest. "How did you come by these?" Janelle's answer was concise. "They were in our family records. I think the court is entitled to know the truth." Kody slammed his palms on the table. "She's lying. Those papers are faked. She's doing this to ruin me." His voice broke, half anger, half desperation. Robyn wrapped her arms around his arm, whispering wildly, but her own tears belied her terror. Christine leaned in close to Meri and breathed. "Finally, she's doing it." Meri nodded slightly, eyes wide with shock and triumph. The judge signaled with a raised hand to remain silent. "Mr. Brown, sit down. We will take these documents very seriously. If they are real, they alter everything." The words rolled through the courtroom like a thunderclap. Robyn hid her face in her hands. Kody seemed on the verge of exploding, red in the face, his body shaking with barely suppressed fury. And Janelle? She just folded her hands, breathing normally, as if she had spent years practicing for this moment. The gallery viewers weren't merely observing a trial. They were seeing the disintegration of a family dynasty. Himply late afternoon, the documents had been copied and handed over to both sides. Lawyers frantically worked through them, pages turning quickly. They showed discrepancies in the finances, undeclared assets, and scribbled notes that appeared to confirm that Kody had transferred significant amounts of money without authority. One lawyer leaned over and whispered, "This isn't about family tensions, this might be fraud." The tension became too much. Every sentence was biting. Every glance was charged. Christine's lips curled into a half-smile, nearly vindicated, and Meri scrunched her fists, as if just holding back from yelling, "I told you so." When it came back, was raw and hysterical. "These aren't real. Janelle, you know this isn't true. Tell them you're making a mistake." Janelle didn't bat an eye. "Kody," she said gently, but firmly, "the error was assuming no one would ever know. Okay, sometimes the most deadly truths aren't yelled in rage. They're spoken in quiet conviction." The judge declared a brief recess to study the evidence more carefully, but nothing in the room was relaxed. Journalists rushed to courthouse doors, sending breaking news reports nationwide. Janelle Brown presents bombshell new evidence against Kody, one read. On social media, speculation ran rampant. Was this the final nail in Kody Brown's coffin? Had Janelle just burned the very last strands of the family together? Christine grabbed Janelle's arm in the corridor. "You know he'll retaliate against you for this, don't you? You've set yourself up as the target." Janelle nodded. "I don't care anymore. The truth must be told." Meri came up beside them, her expression torn. "I'm proud of you, but, you understand, once this begins rolling, none of us can turn back. The secrets in those documents, they'll destroy everything." Janelle's eyes went soft, but her determination never faltered. "Then let it burn. Perhaps that is the only way we can ever be free." King the house, Kody paced like a wolverine in a cage, cursing under his breath, his glare fixed on Janelle, as if hate alone could erase what she had done. Robyn held his hand, whispering, "We'll make this right, we'll find a way." But even she sounded uncertain. The judge came back into the room, clutching the folder in his hand with a serious look. He rapped his gavel once. "Ladies and gentlemen, what we have seen here today will change the trajectory of this trial in ways we could never have imagined. We have to move forward with utmost care." The ensuing silence was palpable. Everyone craned forward, anticipating what was to be said next. And in that quiet, one thing was certain: Janelle's leak was just the tip of a whirlwind that would destroy the Brown family. You might think Janelle's folder was incendiary, but just wait until you catch a glimpse of the names hidden within those documents, because they expose alliances, betrayals, and a jaw-dropping secret nobody anticipated. The gavel came down, but order was not restored. Instead, there was a cacophony of voices, shouting attorneys, and reporters pounding on the doors outside, demanding answers. Amidst the tempest, however, one certainty blanketed the room, like a dense mist. Janelle had opened a door to secrets, and nobody had any idea how deep it went. Imagine sitting in a courtroom, watching a family you've followed for over a decade unravel in real time. One sister wife stands to reveal the very evidence that could bury the patriarch of the family, and suddenly the cameras flash, the lawyers scramble, and the judge's face turns pale. That's the moment we're in. And here's the question every viewer of this show is now wondering: why has Janelle waited this long to make these documents public? Loyalty all these years, or waiting for just the right moment to strike? Because if the rumors surrounding those documents are true, then Kody Brown isn't merely a man battling to reclaim his reputation. He's a man set to be exposed in ways even his very best friends never thought possible. Stick with me, because what's soon to be revealed doesn't merely place Kody on the line. It pulls all of the members of the Brown family into a scandal much larger than anyone ever knew. As the judge brought the room to order once more, tension sliced through the stillness like a knife. His face was taut, under control, but his eyes revealed something that was seldom found uneasy. Judges aren't easily spooked. Counselors, he warned, we will reconvene after reading these documents. But I warn all present, if what I suspect in these pages proves to be true, this trial could take a very different turn. That alone shook Kody. He sat back in his chair, chest heaving and falling sharply. His fists curled up against the table, knuckles white, as Robyn breathed softly. Don't let them see you break, please. But he was breaking, all of them could tell. Meanwhile, Christine sat up straight, eyes blazing with fire. To her, this wasn't a mere legal dispute. It was vindication. She leaned in and whispered to Meri, "He's cornered now. He can't spin his way out of this." Meri nodded, but appeared agitated. She knew Kody well enough to know the risk. A man in a corner doesn't yield, he strikes out. And Janelle? She hadn't stirred since handing over the folder. Her rigidity was unsettling, bordering on defiance. The courtroom hummed around her, but she sat with hands crossed tidily, as if a soldier who had already paid the price of war. Sometimes silence can be as loud as any scream, and Janelle's silence was deafening. The recess provided the wives time to disperse to corners of the courthouse. Christine walked back and forth in the hallway, hot and agitated. Meri rested against a wall, torn, talking to herself. And Janelle? She stood by the window, her eyes on the storm of reporters outside, her own reflection gazing back at her. Christine finally got up to her. Tell me the truth, Janelle. How long have you had those papers? Janelle didn't turn. Long enough. Then why now? Christine pressed. Why wait until the last possible moment? Finally Janelle faced her. Because timing is everything. If I'd done this earlier, it would have been buried. If I'd waited longer, it might have been too late. Now the court can't ignore it. He can't silence it. He has to face it. Christine shook her head slowly, but her eyes flashed with concern. You know, Kody, he'll attack you harder than he ever attacked me. Janelle's mouth set. Let him. I'm tired of being afraid. When the strong no longer fear the powerful, that's when revolutions begin. Back in court, Kody's lawyer insisted on knowing where the documents came from. Your Honor, my client claims these allegedly records are stolen, tampered with, and plucked entirely out of context. The judge interrupted him. That can be your position, counselor. But these documents look genuine. They have bank statements, property deeds, and signatures attested to by notaries. Unless you can refute them, they stay in evidence. Kody bashed his fist on the table, growing loud. This is a witch hunt. They're all conspiring against me to kill me. My own relatives. The judge cut him off with a stern look. Mr. Brown, this is not a matter of family feud. This is a matter of law. Everyone knew better. The air thickened. Every page exposed a fresh contradiction. Land sold with no disclosure. Business money moved between shell accounts. Hidden debts with false names. Christine said silently. I knew it as she went through the figures. Meri burst into tears. She had once trusted the vision that Kody marketed to them. And now each figure on those pages tore down what little trust there was left. Robyn grasped Kody's arm, mouthing panicked prayers in her mouth. But even she seemed distraught. If the papers were accurate, all that she had given up to be the faithful wife was founded upon a broken deception. And then the bombshell among the papers was a signed affidavit from a former business partner, a name the wives knew immediately. A woman who had once been friendly with Kody, then disappeared from the family's lives years ago. The courtroom gasped when she read out the name. Even Christine's jaw fell. Kody's response was instant. His face went white, his shoulders drooped. For a man who was so proud of control, he suddenly seemed vulnerable, almost human. And sometimes the deepest hurt isn't what other people do. It's the moment everyone sees you. The judge declared the court would call in this ex-partner for testimony in the upcoming session. That one ruling shocked the room. Christine hissed under her breath. That's it. That's the nail in his coffin. But Janelle did not smile. She didn't applaud. Rather, she breathed almost to herself. No, this is just the beginning. The camera operators on the outside snapped the moment the lawyers stepped out. Journalists surrounded them, calling out questions. Is Kody charged with fraud? Did Janelle betray the family? What did the papers reveal? The lawyers were silent, but their somber faces were eloquent. Within, the wives convened briefly before departing. Meri stood facing Janelle, with eyes wide and full of fear. You've set a fire we can't extinguish. Are you certain we're prepared for what lies ahead? Janelle stood firm under her gaze. We don't have to be prepared. We simply need to say what is true. Christine contributed icily. And if what is true kills him, so much the worse. But in the corner, Robyn prayed under her breath, like a litany. We can repair this. We can repair him. We can still repair it. No one believed her anymore. The session concluded. The papers sealed for review, but the harm was already done. The storm had burst, and for the first time, Kody Brown realized he wasn't in charge anymore, and control was the only thing he ever really had. As the wives exited through different doors, cameras clicking in all directions, one journalist yelled the question, heard around the country. Did Janelle just ruin Kody Brown? If you thought the leaked records were brutal, just wait until you see who is called to the witness stand next. Because this testimony does not only take aim at Kody, it destroys alliances within the Brown family itself. Imagine this, courtroom doors swing open, and a man nobody anticipated enter. He's not another witness. He's one who used to know everything about Kody Brown's empire. He takes a seat, extends his right hand, and swears to tell the truth. but the truth he brings might bury not just Kody, but the delicate threads of connection between sister wives themselves. And here's the place where every jaw drops. It's not about money. This testimony connects Kody to decisions that go deeper, decisions that can cost the wives years of trust, love, and even security. And the instant this man begins to speak, Christine leans forward with fire in her eyes. Robyn starts to cry, and Janelle has her hands wrapped around the table so hard her knuckles are white. Because when an old friend becomes the star witness, betrayal is front and center, and nobody leaves unscathed. The bailiff named the witness aloud, and the room dropped into a nervous silence. The man who walked in wasn't showy, but his presence was undeniable. Wearing a charcoal suit, his hair streaked with gray, his eyes bore the burden of secrets long held. Christine's mouth dropped open. "I can't believe it's him," she breathed at Meri. Meri gulped. "He knows all about it, Christine. Every transaction, every deception." Janelle remained quiet, her expression inscrutable, but the faintest twitch in her eyes indicated she had been waiting for this moment since the beginning. Kody's response, however, was explosive. His face turned red, and he half rose from his chair before his attorney pulled him back down. "Traitor," Kody muttered under his breath, sending poison darts at the man now standing the witness stand. The oath was read. The witness lifted his hand, vowed to tell the truth, and sat. The judge leaned forward. "Please repeat your full name for the record." The man did, and as it rang through the chamber, journalists scribbled frantic, already writing tomorrow's headlines. The prosecutor did not delay. "Mr. Would you explain to the court your business arranged with Mr. Brown?" The witness took a slow breath, his gaze never wavering from Kody's. "I was his partner for years. I helped him transfer money, open accounts, purchase land, and conceal things his family did not know." Gasps resonated through the gallery. Christine clutched the bench in front of her. Meri put her hand over her mouth. Even Robyn's sobs intensified. The prosecutor pursued the point. "Are you testifying that Mr. Brown actively hid assets from his wives?" "Yes," the man said sternly. "Not once, not twice, but habitually, he made choices to shield himself, not his family. And I have the documents to support it." Truth isn't always a sword. It can be a flood, and when the floodgates open, nothing could stop it. Kody pounded his hand on the table. "Lies. He's bitter. He's mad because I cut him off. He's telling tales because he dislikes." But the witness didn't even bat an eye. He moved in closer to the mic. "You didn't cut you off, Kody. You used me, and when you were done you discarded me. But you didn't count on one thing. I kept it all." The prosecutor opened a binder packed with signatures, receipts, and contracts. Every page resembled the document Janelle had presented previously. Combined, they told a damning tale. Secret accounts, backroom agreements, even real estate listed under names no one knew. The judge's tone grew firm. "Mr. Brown, this evidence supports the document Mrs. Brown presented. Unless your attorney can discredit it, this testimony holds." Kody's attorney stammered for words, but they did not catch. The harm was done. Christine could hold it in no longer. She hunched forward, addressing the court, but talking to Kody himself. "All those years you told us there was nothing left, that we had to sacrifice, cinch belts, live on less, while you were concealing funds, while you were purchasing property and seek." Her anger shook with rage. The judge slammed his gavel. "Mrs. Brown, rein in your emotion." But Christine's words had already sliced the air, naked and incontrovertible. Robyn faced Kody, blubbering as tears streamed down her face. "Tell me it isn't true. Tell me please, Kody, that he's lying." Her voice shook, aching for reassurance, but Kody was unable to speak. His silence was deafening. Sometimes silence isn't golden, it's guilt etched in bold. The witness continued. He described late-night meetings, secret transfers, whispered instructions from Kody about keeping certain wives in the dark. He admitted his own complicity, but his testimony painted Kody as the architect. Every word was another hammer blow. Meri, who had been the devoted wife, who had given more than any, shook her head. "I lost years believing in him," she murmured to herself. Her shoulders convulsed as though the burden of her decisions was too much at last. Janelle's face hardened. This was the confirmation she had waited for. And it wasn't like victory, it was like tragedy. When the cross-examination started, Kody's attorney attempted to discredit the witness, portraying him as bitter and untrustworthy. "Isn't it true that you have a personal vendetta against Mr. Brown?" The witness did not meeting the attorney's stare. "My only vendetta is against lies. And there are too many in this room already." The judge ruled the document stay in evidence, and the session came to a close. But not before adjourning. The witness dropped one last bombshell. There's more. Much more. And if the court permits, I'll present records that link Mr. Brown's choices not only to money, but to human beings, people who entrusted, people he deceived. The judge scowled. We'll permit you to produce them next session. Court is adjourned for today. The gavel came down. The wives burst out in whispers, each one slicing one hurt. Christine breathed a fierce whisper. We have him. Finally we have him. Meri shook her head, tears streaming down her face. We've all lost. Don't you see? Whatever's going to happen, the family's gone. And Janelle, ever reliable, whispered to herself. This isn't about winning and losing. This is about putting an end to the lie. Kody just sat there, rigid, eyes fixed ahead, fists balled so hard, his knuckles resembled bone. Robyn was holding onto his arm, begging, say something, Kody. Please fight back. But for once the guy who always had words, always had command, always had an excuse, had nothing more to say. And that silence could be, things would all shatter. If you found this witness outrageous, wait till the next test, because it is not from a stranger, but from someone within the Brown family, and it opens up wounds that were never meant to see the light of day. You believe the courtroom has heard it all. The papers, the witness, the sordid banks. Then, however, comes the judge's announcement of the next to testify. And the whole room, it isn't a business acquaintance or attorney's time. It is someone from within. Someone who shared a roof, Kody Brown, meals, holidays, and hushed argument behind. The instant their name is mentioned, Kody's face goes pale. Robyn clutches his arm, her eyes wide with shock. Christine leaned, her voice barely above a whisper. No way, not them. And Janelle, instigator of this fire, bows her head, aware that the flames are going to burn more than just Kody's reputation. Because when betrayal is outside, you can resist, but when it is from within your family, it devours you. The judge cleared his throat, his voice ringing over the thick silence. The court will receive testimony from Robyn Brown. Gasp spreads to the gallery. Even the journalist, who had witnessed scandal after scandal, leaned forward with eyes wide. Kody's body flushed as if punched. No, he grumbled under his breath, shaking his head. No, she wouldn't. But Meri was already moving ahead. The steps rang out against the highly polished, slow, and she didn't glance at Kody. She didn't glance at the wife. She focused straight on the judge, her face serene, but her hands shaking ever so faintly at her side. Kristen's mouth fell open. Meri, she breathed, shocked. Janelle's eyes went soft. She had always known that this moment, perhaps even inescapable, but to see Meri stand up from it, robbed her of breath. Robyn, on the other hand, gripped Kody's arm more tightly. She can't do. Her voice broke, urgent, but at heart she knew the reality. Meri had waited decades given. The oath was recited. Meri put up her voice little more than a whisper, but firm. I promise to tell the entire truth, and nothing but the prosecutor walked up. Mrs. Brown, can you tell me about your involvement in family accounts while you were married to Brown? Meri's eyes flared as she glanced over at then away. I wasn't given much of an option. I was given allowance, told where to spend it, how much to spend it. Any time I questioned, I was told I didn't get it about money, that I was supposed to trust. Kody pounded his fist. That's not true. You had options. The judge snarled. Mr. Brown, calm down. Meri's voice became firmer. I wanted to trust. I thought the sacrifices were for family, the children, but I know now. It was never for of that. It was for control, for keeping in debt. So none of us could ever. Her words sliced the courtroom. Kristen's eyes welled up with. Janelle remained impassive, her face inscrutable, but her fists clenched. Robyn shook her head, muttering angrily, she's lying. She's bitter. That's all. But Meri went on, her voice firm, near calm instruction. The reports all brought in. I recognized some of secret letters, scrawled on notebook. I knew something, but whenever I attempted to speak up, I was silent, told that I wasn't loyal. Her voice cracked now, tears streaming down her face. Do you have any idea what it feels like to give your whole life to someone, only to find out that you were nothing more than a pawn in their game? Sometimes the greatest betrayal isn't in what's taken, it's in what was never offered. Kody's face contorted with anger and desperation. Meri, stop this. You're ruining the family. You're ruining me. Then finally, Meri glared at him, actually glared at him, her eyes not with anger but something weightier. Sadness. You broke us, Kody. You just never thought we'd say it out loud. The prosecutor guided her through specific questions, dates, accounts, memories of late-night arguments when Kody would return home with cash he couldn't explain. Meri's testimony aligned perfectly with the evidence. Each word added weight to the case, making it harder for anyone to deny what was in plain sight. Christine wiped her tears. She had understood Meri's grief, felt it as her own, but to hear it in this public, irretrievable form struck something more fundamental. She finally spoke, she whispered to Janelle. She finally spoke what we all knew. Janelle nodded. And now everyone in the world knows too. Robyn, though, looked shattered. She clung to Kody, whispering frantically, "We can fix this. We'll prove them wrong. We'll show them you're innocent." But even as she spoke, her voice broke, the words sounding hollow. The cross-examination was brutal. Kody's lawyer tried to paint Meri as bitter, resentful, someone speaking out of vengeance after years of marital strain. "Isn't it true you've had personal conflicts with Mr. Brown for years? Isn't this testimony simply revenge?" Meri breathes in deeply, her eyes shining but unflinching. "I spent years keeping him safe, standing up for him, even when I knew he was lying. This isn't revenge. This is me finally telling the truth. And the truth doesn't need revenge to make it powerful." The courtroom became thick with silence. Even the judge's face was unguarded. Kody leaned back in his chair, his shoulders hunched, his stare on the ground. He was defeated for the first time. Sometimes defeat isn't triumphant. It is silent, when even your own voice fails to protect you anymore. When Meri resigned, the gallery burst into whispers. The reporters wrote frantically, already composing headings of betrayal in the family. Christine hugged her tightly for a moment and whispered, "You were brave." Janelle gently touched her arm, "Thank you." But Meri just nodded, her face grave. It had to be done. When the judge adjourned the court, he warned it. The evidence and testimony introduced today indicate not only mismanagement, but possibly criminal intent. This trial is hardly over. Kody's head jerked up at the sound of criminal. His eyes flew to his attorney, to Robyn, to the judge. For the first time, there was a flicker of fear, genuine, unmistakable fear, across his face. The wives looked on, each with her own tempest of feelings. Christine seethed with vindication. Janelle stood in wordless resolve. Meri sobbed quietly, and Robyn clung tenaciously to the fantasy of loyalty. But something was sure, nothing was going to reverse now. The truth was out, and walls around Kody's empire were crashing down more quickly than anyone could have dreamed. And the wives, emerging from the courthouse, flashbulbs firing and reporters yelling, were followed one question into the night. If the women nearest to Kody could turn against him, who might be next? If you thought Meri's testimony was incendiary, wait until you hear the next voice. Because the witness who comes forward doesn't just speak out against Kody, they reveal a betrayal that tears the entire sister wives' family apart. You believed Meri's testimony was the pinnacle. You believed that nothing could hurt more than a wife, airing decades of secrets in public court. But what if the betrayal comes not from a wife, but from one of Kody's own children? Imaginary this. The gallery doors open, and in comes someone Kody never imagined he'd encounter under oath. A kid he raised, a kid who bears his surname. The type of witness no attorney, no spin, no desperate rationale can impeach. Because when a stranger calls you a liar, people wonder what their motives are. But when your own child steps up and says, staring you in the eye, "Dad, you lied to us all," the world doesn't demand evidence. It requires only the truth in their voice. And that's what occurs next. The courtroom doors swung open, and stepped inside Robyn Brown, Kody's oldest son. The gallery gasped. Christine grasped Janelle's arm, her throat caught tight with a gasp of breath. Even Meri stopped still, her eyes wide with shock. Only Janelle appeared to anticipate this, her face impassive, her lips set tightly in a line. Kody blanched. He grasped the edge of the table so hard his knuckles grew white. "No," he whispered. "Not him, not Logan." Robyn looked between them, panic flooding her face. Why would he be here? He wouldn't. But Logan was already walking forward, his posture calm, his expression firm. He carried no notes, no stack of papers, just himself, and the weight of a son who had seen too much for too long. The judge nodded. "Mr. Robyn Brown, please take the stand." Kody's attorney jumped up at once. "Your Honor, this is very unusual." "Mr. Brown is not." The judge interrupted him. "The witness has been subpoenaed. He will testify." The courtroom grew silent as Logan raised his right hand. His deep level voice filled the room. "I swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth." Kody covered his face with his hands. The prosecutor approached. "Mr. Brown, could you explain your involvement, if any, in the finances of the family?" Logan shifted forward, his eyes scanning the courtroom before finally coming to rest on his father. I didn't manage the money, but I resided in that home. I observed, I listened, and I witnessed the destruction. Christine's breath caught. Janelle's eyes welled up with pride and heartbreak at the same time. Robyn whispered angrily to Kody, "Stop this, stop him." But Kody was frozen in place, not moving. Logan went on. "We didn't have things, growing up, like other children did. That was okay. We knew sacrifices were made for a large family, but we didn't know why some children had more than others, why one's house was always larger, why some wives got answers and some got nothing. And whenever we questioned, Dad said the same thing, 'Don't question me. I know what I'm doing.'" Kody's head jerked up. "That's not true. I did everything I had to do to keep us together." But Logan didn't blink. His tone was steady, but every sentence struck like a sledge. "You did not keep us together. You drove us apart. You prioritized money over family, and when the money began to fall away, you picked favorites. You said that loyalty is more important than truth, but loyalty without truth is control." The prosecutor nodded. "Can you describe to us a particular incident you observed?" Logan's face set in a hard line. "I recall Mom, Janelle, asking for an account one time. She was concerned about the figures. You screamed at her, Dad. You informed her she didn't get it, that she was being disrespectful to you. I was present. I heard it all. And that wasn't even the first time. I witnessed Meri cry after being refused money for a simple thing. I watched Christine sacrifice dreams because you told the family they couldn't afford it. And then I would see you drive a new car, or take Robyn out, or promise things you never held up." Christine's tears ran openly now. Janelle's hands shook in her lap. Kody stood halfway to his feet, his voice shaking with anger. "You don't know. You think you know everything, but you were just a kid." Logan interrupted him, his tone louder, more aggressive now. "I was a kid, but I wasn't blind. I witnessed you, Dad. I witnessed the way you lied, the way you convinced us to shut up. You did not just betray Mom. You betrayed all of us." Sometimes the heaviest truth doesn't appear in evidence. It appears in a son unwilling to cover up his father's lies. The court was silent, except for the angry typing of the reporters. The flash of cameras illuminated the unfiltered pain on Kody's face. The defense flailed, attempting to object, but the judge let Logan proceed. His testimony wasn't about figures and accounts. It was about impact, about trust so violated that it hurt a whole generation. Logan's last words hit like a lightning bolt. "You wanted control, Dad. Well, here it is. You've lost control of me. You've lost control of us. And the truth is finally louder than your voice." He descended from the stand, his face set, his movements firm. He did not glance at Kody once more. He did not need to. Christine took Janelle's hand, whispering, "He did it. He said what we couldn't." Meri dried her tears, mumbling softly, "The children, their burden now." Robyn was shaking her head, shaking with rage, as she held on to Kody. "This isn't real. He doesn't mean it. He's crazy." But at the very deepest level, she knew. This wasn't madness. This was reality. Kody sat slumped, his body hollow, his eyes blank. The father who once commanded a family of 20 now looked like a man with no power left. If Meri's betrayal shook the courtroom, and Logan's testimony broke Kody's spirit, then the next witness will do something far worse. They will put Kody's very freedom at risk. Because what comes next isn't about betrayal. It's about criminal charges. If you had believed betrayal from Meri was incendiary, and Logan's testimony ripped the roof off this court, think again. Because now, the battle is not about trust broken. It is not about special treatment, betrayal, and emotional wound. This is about handcuffs. This is about prison. Imagine sitting in court, holding on to hope that the worst you'll experience is embarrassment, perhaps a sullied reputation, perhaps lost money. Now imagine that hope pulled away as a prosecutor enters the courtroom with evidence that could put you away for decades. This is the instant Kody Brown's bad dream comes true. Not rumors, not gossip, not family doing, but criminal charges. And the witness set to testify doesn't care about loyalty to family. They care about justice. The courtroom doors opened once more. But this time it wasn't family members entering. It was an accountant, a freestanding forensic auditor, whom they had contracted months previous to dig through the Browns' knotted finances. The man tweaked his glasses, holding a fat black binder, the type of binder that never shows up unless someone has invoiced. "Say your name for the record." The prosecutor requested. David Hensley, certified forensic accountant. I was hired to examine the financial documents associated with Mr. Kody Brown and his related businesses. Kody's attorney jumped up at once from his seat. Objection, Your Honor. These documents are incomplete and taken out of context. But the judge waved his hand. Overruled. Go on. David opened the binder in a flip. Filled pages with highlighted figures, graphs, and lists of transactions. Pages that tell more than any passionate testimony. I have evidence. David started, his tone flat and clear, of money being withdrawn from joint family accounts into private accounts held by Mr. Brown alone. The total such withdrawals was over $2 million over 5 years. Gasps echoed through the room. Christine gripped her chest. Janelle's mouth parted, her frame stiffening. Meri shut her eyes, muttering, "Oh my God." Kody leaned in, his voice cutting. "That's a lie. Those were for business, for investment." David did not blink. "Mr. Brown." The withdrawals followed the transfers. Cash sums withdrawn in amounts unrecorded for distribution. Also, I uncovered payments on personal cars, vacations, and high-end goods directly correlated with those accounts. Robyn's hand sprang to her mouth. No, this isn't true. Tell me this isn't true." The prosecutor moved closer. "Mr. Hensley, in your expert opinion, does this cross the line of financial fraud?" "Yes, these dealings bear obvious hallmarks of misappropriation of funds. If they were found to be intentional, they might constitute felony fraud." The term felony fell into the room like a bomb. Journalists scrambled for their phones. The gallery exploded in murmuring. The bailiff was forced to call for order. Kody leapt to his feet, his voice cracking with desperation. "I was defending my family. Do you get that? I did what I needed to do. This isn't fraud. It's surviving." The judge's gavel came down. "Sit down, Mr. Brown." Kody's words only exacerbated the situation. Because desperation in a courtroom sounds a lot like guilt, the prosecutor pressed forward. "So to be clear, Mr. Hensley, you're saying money that should have gone to support the entire Brown family was funneled into accounts used for Mr. Brown's personal expenses?" "Yes. And there's a consistent pattern of concealment. Attempts to disguise these transfers by labeling them as family investments or operational costs." Christine spoke harshly to Janelle in a whisper. "That's it. That's the evidence. He wasn't only being unfair. He was stealing from us." Janelle's face was unyielding, yet her eyes shone with rage. "And now he has to pay." When the narrative moves from family deceit to potential jail time, everything changes, because the courtroom ceases to be about feeling and begins to be about survival. Kody's attorney flailed, standing up. "Your Honor, this is conjecture, based solely on figures." The accountant held up a hand. "These are not just figures. These are bank statements. Paper trails don't fib." The prosecutor delivered the coup de grace. "Your Honor, on this evidence, the state will be proceeding with criminal charges of fraud, embezzlement, and misappropriation of funds against Mr. Kody Brown." The judge's gaze locked on Kody. "Mr. Brown, do you grasp what is being charged against?" Kody's face went pale. His response was tiny, hardly loud enough to hear. Yes, the quiet was oppressive. Kody had been the loudest mouth in any room for years, demanding, dominating, insisting he was right. But now, he resembled a man seeing the bars of a jail cell. Robyn clutched his arm, sobbing quietly. We'll fight this, Kody." But Christine, her eyes burning with long-buried anger, leaned toward Meri and whispered, "He's not fighting his family anymore. He's fighting the law." The judge called a recess, but the damage was done. Reporters swarmed outside the courthouse. Headlines flashed across social media before anyone even left the room. Kody Brown faces possible criminal charges. The family filed out in silence. Meri walked by herself, her expression inscrutable. Christine and Janelle walked side by side, their pace unwavering. Logan trailed behind, the burden of his words. And Kody? He slumped defeated on a hallway bench, looking into space, as Robyn attempted to comfort him. For the first time, the man who has made his name, his authority, his control, appear bigger than himself, seemed vulnerable. If you believe that fraud charges are the worst, think again. Because when we come back in the next session, the prosecution is going to present a witness who doesn't only have evidence, they have the one thing Kody dreads most, a tape of his own voice, confirming everything. You've heard Meri break the silence. You've heard Logan destroy his father's reputation. You've heard an accountant present cold, hard figure. But all of that, the crying, the witness, the paper trails still leaves one opening for doubt. Because Kody can say it's exaggeration. He can say it's misunderstanding. He can say it's lies. Think of a courtroom fallen silent as a prosecutor stands up, holding a tiny silver gadget, a recorder, and from it, a voice playing out. Not an attorney, not a witness, not hearsay, but Kody Brown himself. No more excuse, no more space to manipulate the facts. Only his own words, ringing back at him, ensnaring him in a way no cross-examination ever would. This is the moment the trial stops being about he said, she said, and becomes about, he said, period. The prosecutor stepped forward, holding a small recorder in her hand. Your Honor, the state would like to introduce audio evidence to the record. Kody's lawyer jumped to his feet. Objection. This is prejudicial. The judge raised a hand. We'll hear it. Play the tape. The prosecutor pressed play. The room was static. Then a voice that sounded familiar, low, commanding. Kody Brown, don't you dare ask where the money's going. I'll move it where I please. They don't have to know. If Christine or Janelle begin to ask questions, shut them down. Oh. If Meri pushes, tell her she's not loyal. It's about control. It's always about control. The gallery gasped. Christine's hand swooped to her mouth. Janelle's eyes went wide, her chest laboring as she struggled to catch her breath. Meri stilled, her body rigid, her face pale. Kody leapt to his feet, crying, that's out of context. That's not, you can't. But the recording went on. The family's nothing without me. They believe they're partner. They're not partner. They're pieces. And if I must shift funds to keep this family out of the poorhouse, I'll do it. They'll thank me in the end. Or they'll quit. Either way, I win. The courtroom exploded. Gasping murmur. Reporters typing wildly. Cameras flashing. Christine was sobbing openly now, her body quivering. She whispered to Janelle, he said it. He actually said it. Meri hid her face. Silent tears. She did not want him to see her fall apart. The judge slammed his gavel down. Order, order in the courtroom. But there was no order. Not anymore. Everything had changed with tape. The prosecutor allowed the silence to sit with them before Mr. Brown, this was your voice on that tape, was it not? Kody's attorney leaned over, hissing, do not answer. But Kody's anger boiled over. Yes, it's me. But you don't get what I was saying. Then explain it. The prosecutor interrupted brusquely. Kody faltered, his words running each other. It was strategy. Motivation. You turn it around to make it sound like it's fraud. But it was about family cohesion. The prosecutor's voice cut through his alibi. Family harmony, or control. Because when you say it's about control, it's always about control. That doesn't sound like harmony. Mr. Brown, that sounds like dominance. Robyn clamped his arm, pleading, stop speaking. Please stop. But Kody was dissolving, beads of sweat running down his face. His voice wavered. They were ungrateful. They never respected what I built. I had to keep them in check. Christine leapt to her feet, her finger stabbing at him across the courtroom. Keep us in line. Oh. You wrecked us, you killed everything we made. The bailiff stood between them, but her voice rang out in the wives, formerly quiet and shattered, were now galvanized by the truth exposed in Kody's own words. When the truth is spoken by a witness, you can deny it. When it's from paper, you challenge. But when it's spoken by your own voice, there's no way out. The prosecutor paused the tape, speaking calmly but sharply. Ladies and gentlemen, you've heard the defendant speak for himself. He admits to concealing money. He admits to intimidating his wives. He admits to control as motive. This is not about family. It's about fraud. The judge addressed Kody. Mr. Brown, do you have anything to say before this court can? Kody leaned back in his chair, his chest heaving in ragged spurts. For the first time in his life, he was speechless. Robyn was crying next to him, muttering prayers. Meri sat with her hands buried in her face. Christine grasped Janelle's hand firmly, both of them trembling, but stable. The weight of the tape lay heavy. This was not guesswork. This was not family gossip. This was evident. In the corridors outside the courtroom, journalists filled social. Kody Brown caught on tape. Admits to control, fraud, explosive audio rocks, sister wives trial. Inside tension mounted. The defense rushed for damage control. But the jury members' faces spoke it all. Shock, disgust, disbelief. And Kody, he was a man trapped. No longer the father of a large family, but a defendant facing the loss of his. If you think Kody's voice condemned, just wait until you hear who recorded it. Because the ultimate betrayal has yet to come out. We've heard from the wives. We've heard from the son telling off his dad. We've seen the figure, the deceit, the fibs, and we've heard Kody's voice. Stark, incriminating, but here's the question, searing everyone's mind. Who taped it? Who had the guts, or the ruthlessness to snare Kody's own word? Because in cases such as this, evidence doesn't magic materialize. Someone near, someone close, made a decision. And when the truth is revealed, it won't only shatter Kody, it will tear to shreds the last tenuous strands of his family. Here it comes, because the most stunning betrayal of all has not even been known until now. The judge leaned forward. Indicate the source of this recording. The prosecutor nodded. Your Honor, the audio was entered anonymous initially, but the court has a right to know the name of the individual recorded. The gallery leaned forward. The atmosphere was charged. Reporters' fingers hovered above. The wives held hands. Even Kody, exhausted and wan, lifted his head, and the prosecutor slowly, her eyes scanning the gallery. The recording was created by Robyn Brown. The room exploded. Gasps, shouts, panda. Christine's jaw went slack, her eyes wide. Janelle breathed. No way. Meri gripped the bench in front of her, as if it was the only thing to her upright. Kody lurched to his feet, his face twisting No, no, that's a lie. Robyn would never come. But Robyn was already weak, holding her face and shaking. Her body was trembling as Kody lashed out at. Tell them it's not true. Tell them. Robyn's tears filled the courtroom. At last, through her own tears, she whispered, it's true. The silence followed oppressive. Kody's jaw dropped open, his body shaking with rage. Why? Why would you do this to me? Robyn's voice, but there was an odd firmness in it as well. Because you left choice. I begged you to stop. I begged you to tell the truth, but you refused to listen. You only wanted control. You were going to destroy us all, and I couldn't let that happen. Kody took a step back, as if she'd hit him. Tears welled up in his eyes, not tears of sadness, but anger. You betrayed me. After all I shared with Christine's voice cut through, hard and icy. You didn't share and you exploited, just like you exploited all of. Robyn hid her face hands and I loved you. Oh. I wanted to, but I needed myself safe. I needed to get safe. So yes, I taped, and now everyone in the world knows. When the ultimate betrayal is the one trust, it doesn't just break up, it breaks up every. The judge's gavel slammed down. Order in the court. Order. But order was impossible. The gallery buzzed, the wives and stunned. Logan sat stoned, watching man he'd father unravel. Kody's lawyer tried desperate cover. Your Honors is outrageous. But the prosecutor, outrageous? The outrageous thing is a man, his wives, his children, his money, and getting caught by his own wife. The judge's voice boomed stern. Miss Brown, with all the overwhelming testimony, the financial record, and now this tape, this court finds probable charges. You will be tried for fraud and embezzlement. Bail is set. But understand, your freedom is hardly guaranteed. Kody's body, he looked around desperate, searching an ally. Christine's face was steep. Janelle wouldn't. Meri's eyes were red, and Robyn, the last wife stand, had just a blow that ended. For the first time in decades, Kody Brown stood utterly. The bailiff stepped forward. Mr. Brown, come with me. Kody's knees buckled as led away, his hands trembling, his face a despair. Robyn sobbed. She didn't to stop it. She simply, I'm sorry. The wives gathered together, a fragile but powerful circle. Christine whispered, it's over. Janelle nodded, tears in her eyes. Meri, her shoulders heavy but freer than when the man who based his life loses everything. It's not only justice, and history will never forget this trial.